Good day, STEM students. Okay. Now we are in our second semester of the school year, and also we are now moving on our ano, biology 2 lessons. So, tapos na tayo sa biology 1. So, we now move on with our biology 2 lesson. So, now I'm sharing to you my screen for our day's topic. So, as you can see in my screen, we are to discuss of nutrition in plants and animals. So for today's lessons, you will be learning the differences between autotrophs and heterotrophs. You will be also learning about the different relationships or interrelationships between autotrophs and heterotrophs, as well as the mode of nutrition, or in meron tayong energy flow. So how animals and plants will be eaten or be eaten. So yan yung mga different topics natin for today. Okay, so just stay with my discussion. So I'll be asking questions later on para wala matulog sa atong discussion. Okay, so autotrophs and heterotrophs. So what are autotrophs? Okay, autotrophs are any organisms that are capable of producing their own food. For most, this is achieved by using light energy, water, and carbon dioxide rather than using energy from the sun. Some will use chemical energy to make their own food. So not mainly the energy that was used is from the sun, but also are capable of having chemical energy. So, but generally, most of the autotrophs are having the process of photosynthesis to produce their own food. So that makes up an autotroph. So all autotrophs use non-living material in organic sources to make their own food. Because of their ability to make their own food, autotrophs are also commonly referred to as the primary producers and thus occupy the base of the food chain. Basically, these autotrophs are called as the primary producers. Okay, so some examples include cyanobacteria, wheat, the maize plant, phytoplankton, seaweeds, and grass. So on the other corner or other part, what are heterotrophs? So a heterotroph is an organism that cannot manufacture its own food by carbon fixation and therefore derives its intake of nutrition from other sources of organic carbon, mainly plant or animal matter. In the food chain, heterotrophs are secondary and tertiary consumers. In short, a heterotroph is unable to produce its own food, or mainly dili siya pwede go with the process of photosynthesis, but they can get carbon from plant or animal matter as a source of carbon. So in food chain, so heterotrophs are the secondary or the tertiary consumers. So examples are herbivores, carnivores, fungi. So what are the different keys for the heterotrophs and autotrophs? So for heterotrophic, so examples are cow, dog, elephant, and rhino, including a lion. Okay, they depend directly or indirectly for food from other animals, also with plants. Okay, whereas the green plants or the autotrophic, they're able to prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, which needs sunlight, air, water, and okay, balik lang. Okay, so heterotrophs are considered as consumers, okay, while the autotrophs are the primary producers. Okay, heterotrophs do not contain chloroplast. So without chloroplast, okay, it unable to prepare their own food. So it cannot do the process of photosynthesis without chloroplast for heterotrophs. So while the autotrophs are able to produce their own food, in the process of photosynthesis, because meron tayong tinatawag na chloroplast in a plant cell. So heterotrophs are able to move from one place to another in search of food, and autotrophs are not able to move. Okay. Heterotrophs obtain their energy directly or indirectly from other organisms, while autotrophs obtain energy from inorganic sources where they convert light energy into chemical energy. Okay. Heterotrophs depend on autotrophs for their food, while autotrophs are not. So it's like a process wherein the plants cannot get something from us, but heterotrophs can depend on the autotrophs for food, mainly for food. So, okay, as you can see in this image, so meron tayong cycle of organic compounds to carbon dioxide and then water. So, in the process of photosynthesis and different process of photosynthesis mo ni the carbon dioxide is needed by plants so they can produce water and may oxygen. So, if you want to learn more about the interrelationship between autotrophs and heterotrophs, you can view this link to watch more of the video. So we'll now go with the symbiotic relationship within different autotrophs or heterotrophs and what are these for the ecosystem. So let's learn one by one. Okay, so we have mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, competition. We also have predation. So relationship between biotic factors. Okay, so biotic factors are those living organisms. Okay, a relationship wherein one organism rather feeds on the other. So for this one, so makita ninyo, zebra is being uh, caught by a lion. And so with the fish, okay, we also have mutualism, okay, a process wherein both organisms benefits on one another. So the bee and the flower, so for pollination, so magamit siya for the plant, while the bee is using that one for food. Okay, commensalism, a relationship wherein one benefits while the other is not harmed nor benefited. So for commensalism, only one benefits, but the other is not harmed. While parasitism occurs when one benefits while the other is harmed is an harmed organism. So this is an example of parasitism. So the one is a parasite wherein it gets something from the other, but in return, walay makuha ang isa. It's like to die or something. It kills somebody, ana lang. And then, or even kana lang for food. And competition occurs when organisms battle against each other for food or other resource. So it's not basically they kill they have to kill the other, but it's like to compete for food or the other. So meron ding mga patayan for that as they fight for survival. Okay, but more on it's battle against for food. So so far we are done discussing the what are heterotrophs, autotrophs, and also the symbiotic relationship that is present in an ecosystem. So let's find out if we learned something from a while ago's discussion. So what type of relationship is present in this organism? Okay, so you can have your answer. This is I covered the answer. That is parasitism because it gets the other benefited while the other is not. And this one is commensalism. So one is not harmed with one. And this one is still commensalism. And This is, yes, mutualism. Okay, let's have the other. This one is familiar to you, so I guess you can benefit from this. It's parasitism. And if you want to look for other contents regarding that one, you may search on this link. So, for okay, if you want to learn something and I've learned something, so you have to give examples for each type of symbiotic relationship. This is, you will do this actually para sa inyong activity. Meron kayong activity nito. So, okay, with that, okay, with your knowledge of those things, let's have also discuss the energy flow with in an ecosystem. So in an ecosystem, there are a lot of different animals and plants. So how are these able to have a balanced ecosystem or homeostasis, maintaining homeostasis with the ecosystem? So, di ba you learned in creation that everything was made, and so plants are able to produce food for us humans. So in creation, di ba, gihimo man ta for that. And so in our ecosystem, na siya order, okay, order of things na processes. So one of these things that is present is food chain and food web. Okay, napod na siya yung food web. So in us, so you have learned that anang different organisms are present in earth, and so there is an order made. So moingon na lang jud ka that God is good for creating things in order. So dili those, okay, meron talagang purpose for each and everyone in earth. So today we'll learn the energy flow within the ecosystem. So these are now the food web. So all living things, plants, animals, bacteria, need energy to live, and all living things get this energy from food. So without being eaten, or without you getting for foods, 'di ba? You will not survive. So how you will be able to survive is that you have to still maintain the energy to live. So this is how energy is cycled in earth. So food in itself is not energy. It must be changed into energy by the organism using process called respiration. So the energy is used the organism to carry out metabolic activities, that things that cells need to keep you alive. So with your knowledge of respiration, relate na po na to din ang photosynthesis, respiration. So with those things, you'll be able to know that energy is used by our body. Okay, not mainly our body, but let's go deeper. It's like cells is able to function because of the cell that of the energy that is present. So katong ATP. So a food chain is the transfer of energy from one organism to another. The arrows point to the organism that received the energy. These arrows are called strands. So in a food chain, so makita ninyo, so let's start from the primary producer. So the chain of energy, so which is higher. So primary consumer gets an energy from grass, so mas higher energy. And then the secondary consumer, it consumes the insect. And then the snake eats the bird. And then the owl eats the snake. And then later, this owl is becoming or deceased or dead. So it can decompose and it goes to still go back to its origin. So the producers are now able to get nutrients from the soil through the decomposers. So if you can see, there is a chain of commands of which energy is going and started. So this is the cycle of food chain. No, it's a food chain wherein energy is uh, nag there is a flow of energy. Okay, we also have food web. So food web is a chain of different food chains. So if you can see in the image, okay, as defined as interconnecting food chains, because organisms in habitat generally consume more than one thing, so the energy produced in plants connect with several organisms living together. So as you can see sa food web, okay, we always start with the producers. So these producers are being eaten by the consumers. So as the energy is lowered, okay, pagamay ng energy because different chains or different animals or consumers were able to lessen the energy that is present from the original uh, consumer na energy. So, is it said here that katong food web, interconnecting food chains, so makita kag daghan the different food chains in a food web to which okay, one is eaten by the other. O ikadaghan po siya magkaon-kaon. So mo na it's not only one particular thing, it's the other. So, daghan siya process. So, it might or it may undergo a lot of food chains on this is now we call it as food web. So, okay, for today, so you're able to see the mode of nutrition between the heterotrophs and autotrophs. So, as we, sige, let's have a further recap of the things that we have discussed. So, we have autotrophs and heterotrophs. So, the autotrophs are now your producers, okay, the primary producers of energy. So, later it is consumed by a heterotroph wherein a lot of interrelationship happen. So, pwede po siya na symbiotic relationship with each other, predation, parasitism, commensalism, mutualism. Okay, and then for a food chain to happen, so na siya yung mga higher forms of energy that comes from producers, and then it gets lesser when consumers consume the energy that is coming from the producers. And then, if marami pang kumakain, so yung energy gets lower. Then, a series of food chains can be seen in a food web. So that is how our ecosystem maintains balance within an ecosystem through the order of specific things. So I hope you learned something for this day. So if you wanna have if you want to study more about this one, so I have the references here. So thank you for watching this video. God bless you.